Do you think I wake up every morning just to see if I can catch you cheating again? I hissed, voice trembling between rage and betrayal. The living room fell silent, the early morning light cutting across the carpet in sharp stripes. He just stared at me, eyebrows knitting in disbelief, then slowly shook his head. "You're overreacting," he said, as though I'd accused him of something absurd. "I went on vacation with a friend." "You're crazy." I remember that moment clearly, how my chest felt like it was collapsing inward, how my stomach lurched as if someone had yanked it through a keyhole. I stood in my robe, hair still, damp from shower steam, clutching my phone screen showing their beach selfies. Him and another woman, laughing, sun-baked skin glowing, her head thrown back in delight. The place was exotic, the resort name I'd never heard, but I recognized the pool. I'd found it because last week I'd searched for Cancun resorts after he'd told me he was working late. I discovered his plain itinerary by snooping on his travel rewards account. Every breadcrumb led here to a betrayal he refused to own. I sank onto the couch, the phone dropping into my lap. My hands shook so violently the screen went blurry. He perched on the armchair opposite, as though we were about to debate football, instead of our marriage crumbling. "I don't know why you're making this a thing," he shrugged. "We were crazy hours. I needed a break." My mind rewound over the past months. Late-night emails, canceled date nights, excuses about hostile clients, and that mysterious cough he had when I asked if he was okay. Suddenly it clicked. The cough was a whisper to her, not me. The secretive texts weren't about business. They were about hotel bars and clandestine dinners. He told me he was on a weekend retreat at our company's leadership conference. Instead, he had sun loungers and margaritas with her. And now, when I confronted him, I was the one crazy. My heart pounded, drowning out everything but his denial. "You lied," I croaked. "You lied to my face for weeks." "How?" "I didn't lie." He slammed his palm on the armrest, so hard a loose thread unraveled. "That woman is my business associate. She needed moral support after her breakup." I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "Moral support? So you two spent 4 days drinking by the ocean supporting her?" My daughter's high chair waited silently in the kitchen, and I pictured her turning 2 next month. Shouldn't we have been celebrating together, not playing this twisted game of hide and seek? He leaned forward, eyes softening. "I'm sorry you feel hurt," he said. It wasn't an apology. It was an apology for my feelings, not his actions. "But it wasn't what you think. You're being paranoid." Paranoid. That word stung more than any insult because it undermined the very real fear I felt. Fear that our family was built on deception. I rose from the couch, pacing the floor as though distance could rewire my heart. "Paranoid!" I spat. "Paranoid about a man who can't tell his wife the truth. Paranoid about the woman whose arm was around your waist in every photo." He stood, too. Our height difference suddenly felt like a chasm. "Stop yelling," he said, voice low. "I'm trying to explain." His words fell flat, empty as the champagne bottle on his nightstand. I pressed my palms to my temples, needing to ground myself. Here's what I knew I had. Evidence, plane tickets, resort bills, photos. I also knew that trust, once shattered, doesn't just glue back together. That knowledge rippled through me like ice water. "Fine," I said after a moment, voice steady. "Explain then." I launched into what I found. The itinerary, the hotel receipts, the GPS tags on her Instagram stories, all the proof that their business retreat was a vacation. He listened, arms crossed, expression unreadable. When I finished, he shook his head again. That woman is single, divorced, he said. She needed a friend. I can't believe you'd accuse me of cheating when all I did was try to help. Someone in distress. Help her. I felt fury rise. Help her how? By kissing her cheek in front of strangers. By sharing hotel beds. He flinched. We didn't sleep in the same room. Look at the bill. Separate rooms. I yanked the printed receipt closer. Separate rooms at the same resort, on the same balcony. Floor, with the connecting door unlocked. The receipt specifically lists adjoining rooms. His face, pale. Adjoining rooms. It was the first crack in his wall of lies. A heavy silence settled. I sat back down, exhausted. This confrontation had been my only path to truth, but truth felt like shards of glass slicing through my fingers. He sank beside me. God, I'm sorry you're in pain, he said, soft now, but sorry for me again. I never meant to hurt you. I closed my eyes, breath catching. I wanted to believe him, but evidence isn't erased by apologies. When I opened my eyes, I saw a reflection in the TV screen. A couple, one frantic and wounded, the other defensive and remorseful. We looked nothing alike. I knew I had choices. Demand he end this friendship, walk away with proof, and set boundaries. But first, I needed to process, for myself, for our daughter, imagine in the future he'd almost stolen. That afternoon, I took a long walk through the neighborhood, running through the street. Cheeks stained with tears, joggers passed, oblivious to my story. I texted my sister one line. I found out it was all I could manage. Her response came minutes later. Call me when you can. I found a bench under an oak tree and sat, phone clasped tight. Memories of our early days. Rushed in. Our first apartment's creaky floors, laughter echoing off bare walls. The night he proposed under fairy lights strung on the deck. Her promise to love our future kids. It was hard to reconcile that with the man lounging poolside with another woman. How do we slide from that joyful beginning to this betrayal? I drafted a list on my notes app, questions I would ask, boundaries I needed possible, outcomes laid out like chess pieces. Should I demand transparency with his digital activity? Ask her to leave town? Insist on couples therapy within the week? The options swirled, each with its risks and hopes. By the time I returned home, the sun was dipping, painting the sky in bruised purples. I opened the door to find him in the kitchen, preparing pasta for dinner as though nothing had happened. Steam curled from the pot. The smell of garlic filled the air. I paused, stomach twisting. He looked up and forced a smile. Hungry. I closed my eyes, tasting the pasta he'd cooked 1,000 times. It would be easy to slip into routine, to pretend this confrontation was a bump in the road. But easy wasn't what I needed. I needed honesty. I needed respect. So I walked to the island, leaned across it, and met his gaze. We need to decide what happens next, I said. I can't go back to pretending. I need to know if we have a future. He set the wooden spoon down and reached across the counter, touching my hand. I let him, and sensed his trembling grip. I understand, he said quietly. I want to work through this. Whether that was love or fear, I couldn't tell. But in that moment, I realized I would no longer be the wife who whispered doubts behind his back. I would demand the truth, set boundaries, and define our marriage on new terms, terms he would have to agree to or walk away from. I lifted my hand from his and walked to the sink, filling a glass with water. When I turned back, His eyes were full of apology, but also resolve. I sipped the water, letting it anchor me. Tomorrow would be the start of the hardest conversation of our lives, one where I would lay out every condition for trust rebuilt, and he would either accept them or face the consequences of his betrayal. The pasta boiled over, bubbles spilling onto the stove. I grabbed a towel, wiped the spill, and felt the calm certainty of my decision. No more lies, no more fractured trust, and definitely no more calling me crazy for confronting him about something I had undeniable proof of. As I plated our dinner in that quiet kitchen, I'd never felt more certain that this crisis, as painful as it was, might be the catalyst that either tore us apart or forged us into something stronger if only we dared to face the truth together. Can you really blame me for not trusting you? I whisper, voice barely louder than the hum of the refrigerator. I'm standing in the kitchen doorway, arms wrapped around my middle, feeling the sob catch in my throat. He's seated at the table, head bowed over his coffee, the same mug he's clutched every morning for the past 2 years. But today, it trembles in his hands. He looks up, eyes puffy, guilt etched in every line of his face. I realize it's my fault, he says, voice raw. I broke the promise I made when I put that ring on your finger. My heart twists. Promises. Rings. Those were my safe words when we vowed it would be us against the world. Yet here we are, worlds apart. I step forward, heels scraping the tile. The early sunlight filters through the blinds, slashing stripes across the vinyl floor like bars of a cage. You hid your vacation, I say, pacing. You lied about where you were sleeping, who you were with. How am I supposed to feel safe when every detail of our life together became your dirty little secret? He stands too, but I keep moving. His presence used to anchor me. Now it only reminds me of how adrift I've been. I thought I was doing the right thing by giving her someone to talk to. He murmurs. She was lonely. She lost her father and I. Stop, I hiss. You didn't lose her father. She wanted a friend. You chose to become more than a friend. Every syllable cuts through me, but it's a necessary knife. He flinches and I almost relent, but his reaction makes me steel myself. He opens his mouth, closes it. Finally, he says, I never meant to hurt you. I meant to help her. I laugh, bitter, hollow. You helped her ruin my trust. He lowers his gaze, chalk dusted on his jeans from last night's DIY project. He painted the nursery walls while I was at my support group meeting. We've been talking about boundaries. Honesty, remember? He painted those walls with silence. I stop pacing and lean against the counter, fingertips tapping a nervous rhythm. I need to know if there's a way back. My voice cracks. Not because I want to pretend this didn't happen. I need to know if you can prove you deserve my trust. He exhales, as though he's been holding his breath for days. Name it, he says. Tell me what I have to do. I close my eyes and count to 5, the same trick I taught Emma when she had a tantrum. First, I begin, you will delete every trace of her from your life. Social media connections, phone, contacts, emails. He nods, penitent. I continue. Second, you'll agree to daily check-ins. Messages throughout the workday, photos, honest whereabouts. He looks pained but nods. Again. Third, I press on. You'll attend therapy, alone at first, then with me. No exceptions. He swallows. And fourth, you'll rebuild the memories you stole. Plan one honest trip for us without secrets, and let me pick the destination. His throat works, and I soften for a moment. I'm not being petty, I say. I'm asking for the foundation back. Otherwise, this ring I gesture to my finger means nothing. He reaches across the table, handshaking. I understand, he whispers. His words are weighty, like bricks he's carrying. I pull my hand away. Not yet. The next days blur into routines. He calls at noon without fail. He leaves his phone on the counter overnight. He starts therapy, recounting every lie to a stranger. I see him scribble notes, tears staining the pages. At night, I lie awake, listening for the echo of his breath beside me. Sometimes he rolls closer, and I hold my breath wary. Other times, I feel his hand brush my arm, the tentative touch of a man relearning how to love. One Tuesday afternoon, I find him in the garage, dust motes dancing in the sunlight. He's repairing my old bicycle, the one I haven't ridden since before Emma's birth. He turns and offers me a wrench. I thought you could use a break, he says. I take it, heart fluttering. We sit, side by side, turning nuts and bolts, wordless companionship sewing threads between us. Later that evening, over pasta and roasted vegetables, he surprises me with an envelope. Inside is a map of the coast, hand-drawn routes and notes in careful script. I want to make this trip meaningful, he says, eyes bright for the first time since the confrontation. You pick where. I'll plan every detail, flights, hotels, activities. No surprises, except the good kind. Tears brim in my eyes. This is progress. He's acknowledging my pain and asking to build something new. Yet part of me recoils. If I accept, am I forgetting? Or am I choosing to forge deeper bonds with someone who nearly destroyed us? That night, I practiced sleep meditation, visualizing letting go of the past without discarding everything we had. I remember his laugh when he first met Emma, how he rocked me during labor with whispered encouragement, the way he pulls me close when I'm cold. These memories are the still bright embers of what brought us together. The next morning, I tell him yes. I choose the Amalfi Coast, a place we always dreamed of, visiting before children. He beams and pulls me into an embrace that's warmer than any apology. In that moment, I sense the unspoken vow, this time we'll be honest. Weeks later, we board the plane with passports, itineraries, and hearts cautiously mended. As it ascends, I lean into him. He wraps an arm around my shoulders and kisses my temple. I close my eyes and feel the gentle lift of forgiveness alongside the hum of the engines. Below us, life unfolds in patterns we can't predict. But up here we've chosen each other again. And sometimes I realize with a quiet swell of hope, that's all that matters. Can you feel it? I whisper, voice trembling as we step onto the warm cobblestones of Positano, Amalfi Coast. Dave's arm wraps around my waist, guiding me toward the edge of the cliffside village where pastel houses tumble into the turquoise sea. My heart flutters, not just from the height, but from the fragile promise we've built together. He smiles, eyes soft. I can feel it, he replies. A fresh start. I inhale the salty breeze, letting it wash away the last of my doubt. For weeks I held my breath, uncertain if forgiveness could endure the weight of his betrayal. But here amid bougainvillea and church bells, I sense it possibility. We wander through narrow alleys, kids' laughter mingling with church chimes. Emma, perched on Dave's shoulders, shrieks with delight as she chases a street cat. Below, I trail with our son, bumping my hip in his stroller, our little family stitched back together by willingness to try again. Remember the first time we met? Dave asks, voice low as we pause by a gelato stand. I smile, heart pounding. You spilled coffee on me, I remind him, reaching for a scoop of limoncello. Sorbet. He pretends to shudder. I still owe you 20 euros. I laugh, the sound light and free. But beneath the laughter, a tender gravity hums. I remember the days I lay awake, replaying his business associate, alibis like broken records. The nights I tiptoed past his door, heart in my throat. The moment I stared at those beach selfies, feeling the ground shift beneath me. Forgiveness wasn't a single act. It was 1,000 small choices, stretching across months of honesty and effort. Later, at a cliffside cafe, we toast with glasses of Prosecco. The bubbles tickle the back of my throat, and I toast to truth. Dave's gaze is steady. To new beginnings, he replies, and I believe him. As the sun dips toward the horizon, casting the village in honeyed light, we slip into a rented scooter and drive along winding coastal roads. Emma giggles in the back seat, her hair whipping in the wind. Our son stretches his tiny arms out as though flying. Dave and I exchange glances. In the rearview mirror, joy and relief swirling between us. That night, we dine by candlelight on fresh seafood and local wine. I watch Dave cradle our daughter in one arm, feeding her softly while balancing his fork in the other. The tenderness in his eyes makes my chest ache in the best way. I lean across the table and whisper, "Thank you." He nods, voice thick. "Thank you for trusting me again." I pause, gaze drifting to the sea. "Trust isn't automatic," I say, "but it grows when you tend it." He reaches across and squeezes my hand, petals of hope unfurling in my chest. The next days are a mosaic of stolen kisses on sunlit terraces, pastel breakfasts understriped, umbrellas, and quiet walks through lemon groves. We discover hidden coves, share gelato, breaks, and laugh at Emma's dramatic reenactments of a secret vacation that nearly destroyed us. We transform the pain into a story we own, one of survival and choice. On our final afternoon, we take a boat around the Ligali Islets. The water glitters like liquid sapphire. Dave helps me climb onto the deck, offering his hand without hesitation. I accept, heart lighter than air. He wraps a sarong around my shoulders, worries melting under the sun. As we anchor in a secluded bay, I press my palm to my belly, feeling our second child flutter. "She loves it here," I murmur. Dave joins me, hand over mine. "She's part sea and sun now," he says. I turn in his arms, and for the first time since the betrayal, I feel whole. We are not naive, no storms may come, but we've learned to steer by the live stars of truth and effort. The past will always ripple our waves, but we choose to navigate forward together. That evening, under a canopy of stars, we shared gelato on our balcony, Emma asleep wrapped around Dave's chest, our son curled in my lap. I trace patterns on his little hand, marveling at the life we've built. Dave whispers, "I love you," words simple but profound. I smile, voice warm. "I love you too." No grand vows this time. No rings exchanged under fairy lights. Instead, a promise felt in every shared sunrise, every honest conversation, every moment we choose to come back to each other. And as the Amalfi moon casts silver across the sea, I close my eyes, listening to the gentle rise and fall of Dave's breathing beside me. We made it, through lies, through hurt, through fear, and here at the edge of the world we dreamed of, we begin again.